All right, Tom. How
Hey,
you
Marty.
doing?
I'm doing great, Marty. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm pumped to do this. I've never done this before.
Well, here we go.
Let's go.
So we're starting a kind of sober recovery reading kind of discussion.
Awesome.
So
Yes.
yeah, and just books that were helpful in some kind of way to
Yeah.
our,
Besides the big book.
yeah, right. This is definitely stuff that is, this is not AA sponsored podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
so right, because we're not using the source material, I guess, but we're using other material outside the canon, outside the recovery canon, that nonetheless we
Super
found
helpful.
to be helpful or whatever.
It's a great idea, by the way.
Thank you, appreciate it. So there's a book that you brought to my attention, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or something like that, in one of our discussions, and really opened some doors for me. I know it opened some doors for you.
For sure.
Of understanding. So yeah, just what is it, and tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. This is really a really cool opportunity to talk about this thing that's important to me and all of us. This depression.
Yeah, no, I think this will be good for other people to
Absolutely.
hear. Relatable, which is again the idea here, like things that are helpful in our journey.
And that's what drew me to this book. Like, this was relatable and helpful. It's Darkness Visible by William Styron. And, I've suffered from depression for a big part of my life and read lots of books and went to therapists and all kinds of stuff. And this book is the first time I read something that described how I was feeling.
Okay.
And I think that is so important for other people to understand what this level of depression, people suffering from this level of depression, truly feel. And because with other people more understanding, maybe there's more help available.
Sure.
That type of thing. But my good friend gave this book to me when I was in the depths of it, and it truly has changed my life.
Amen.
I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, well, me too. Yeah, well, anyway, you talked about this book, and the way it hit me is that I kind of realized that, like, I didn't really understand depression.
Yeah.
For a long time, in recovery communities, I try to help out guys, and I think I've given them, advice that's good for certain situations, but it's not good for at least this level of depression. And my understanding just wasn't there. And part of the thing for me was that my diagnosis is ADHD ever since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And there are parts of ADHD that are like depression. There's sadness for sure. There's frustration. There's a sense of shame about incompetencies and social awkwardness and all kinds of stuff like that. There's a lot of autistic type symptoms they're now realizing more that relate very much to me, like hypersensitivities, things that I understand, things that overwhelm very quickly. One of the biggest ones that is sometimes related to depression is this reaction sensitivity dysphoria, which is this extreme sensitivity to not even criticism, but even the possibility or perceived criticism that's not there. And then ADHD for adults, including on my journey for a time, but it didn't really work for me, is often now treated with antidepressants of various kinds. And there are people with ADHD diagnoses that find those very helpful. None of those things worked for me.
Didn't work for you.
Yeah, so I didn't, get any traction out of any of that.
Yeah.
But the overall thing is that it made me think that I understood what depression was because I thought of it as something that was a part of my, complex of symptoms or whatever, or maybe even at the base of it, because, even the anxiety thing, and anti-anxiety meds and all these kind of procedures, including just talk therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy and the one where they do the eye things are whatever it is. EMDR, that's it, yes.
And they have DBT, dialectic behavior therapy, which I was in.
That's right, yeah. So those things, there are always some benefit to them, but I never found what I needed. And
Yeah.
the real big problem here is that what I needed is not what somebody who has depression needs. And I kind of thought everybody just needed what I was doing, which, in a very general sense was like, you just need to have lots of fun projects and interesting. Your life has to be interesting again in recovery so that you can, have something to look forward to every day.
Yeah.
And for me, like the best drugs I get all day long are exercise. So I love lifting and skating and stuff like that. So those are the kind of things that I recommend to people in recovery. But like a lot of people in recovery don't have what I have. I kind of assumed like everybody has some form or another of whatever it is. Call it ADHD, call it something else. However you look at it, I just figured that that's what it was, and that's just not what it was. That's and right. This book really helped me to realize that.
Yeah, I am so glad, grateful that, we have a book club, another book club we go to Thursday. It's been very impactful for us. And you started this Lectio Divina, where we read a passage. And we've been discussing in this book club how we can be closest to God or our higher power of our understanding, when we're in the depths of it. And I'm trying to understand that, because I wasn't feeling that when I was in it, and we'll get more into that later. But so I chose a reading from this book and I read up. It was probably a longer reading, but it was a paragraph that truly described my depression. And because I did that, you got a sense of what I had been suffering this whole time. All those hikes in Blended Woods and planking, and your advice to me, and the care you showed for me, the coffees, everything. And you kind of brought an ADHD solution to it, which is cool, because you that's what you understood. And get up one foot in front of the other. I mean, how many times I wrote that in my journals? Just get one foot in front of the other. It's all actions, and get to the gym. And you would tell me, go, just drive to the gym. Go touch the weight. You don't have to lift. Just go there and turn around and go home. And the whole time, Marty, I knew you were right. I knew it would work. I knew it would help. I knew it would make me feel better and give me some relief. But the problem with my type of depression and other people is like, I couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
I couldn't start.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. It's not that I didn't want to. It was impossible. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, and for me too, this the simplest way I've come to understand the difference, and it really is a difference, is that for me the bed is just like, that game where it's like lava. Like I can't stay in there. I have never had the urge to, because like, and it's a kind of, it can be a detriment in the opposite direction, to where I always have to be doing something. So like that's something that I have to think about and
they're
how to
both
work on.
Mood disorder ailments, or
so that where I have to, I feel if I am doing nothing, I feel useless, worthless. That's my depression.
Yeah.
So like boredom for an ADHD person is like the worst chemical situation in your brain. Like we have like many conditions, it seems, dopamine, seeking behavior, that because we're dopamine deprived or whatever, but like we're wired to like have a total alleviation of, at least me, like there's no depression when I'm exercising. It doesn't matter how like sad or lethargic or whatever I felt before, like I'm like running away from that by going to the skate park or whatever.
That was like your relief from your age.
And I can do it all day long. I have an interesting job. Like I have like an interesting that I love, and I that's hard. But like ADHD people, like once they figure themselves out, like they love to be in difficult situations. So it's just like that's what I mean. Like it's always different. It's always a challenge.
I can see the benefits of that, but also the the pressure of it. Like,
yes, exactly. It's got that. There is nothing. This is one thing you learn very quickly. There is nothing that has like all good or all bad. It's always, And so like, yeah, that's my bad. Like I can't sit still. I can't even watch movies. Like, I mean, that's I do with my partner, I do a horror podcast, and like I have to work out because it's excruciating.
See, that's the downside.
That's the downside of it, is like, and it's not just that, it's like anything like that. My day has to be, totally chock full of things for me to keep the sort of chemical situation going that I want in my brain. And so, when we're at a meeting, in the recovery community, and somebody says like something about like, not everybody is benefited by, having to, live their best life or whatever. And which I agree. I totally hear the problem with like too much of this like power and positivity shit. Like I really do. Like these influencers who just like, like trying to maximize everything and maximize their life or whatever.
It's this, then you get into this comparison and judgment of yourself. Like I'm falling short. I need to go hard.
And I have that big time at times. It is really a mixed bag. And to me, I actually kind of feel like it's a little bit dangerous that I've been, helping people with a very different thing than what I have for as long as I have, and talking to them about my presentation when I sponsor somebody, or my recovery thing is just like, you get sober to do things. Like, you get sober to make your life awesome, like, or whatever, and like do hard things and all the kind of things that you hear about in terms of like, I don't know, like it does sound like some sort of manic influencer on TikTok or whatever, the kids are using these days.
That's been your message.
And I really have have at least some regret about that at this point, and I'm glad. Yeah, I'm really so glad for this opportunity to sort of think about the differences, and how to, and you, in your own voice, I mean, can be really helpful to people in recovery who, we all self-medicate for the same reason, but at the same time we all self-medicate for different reasons.
Absolutely.
So like that, like people who were trying to figure out depression for their whole life with, alcohol and drugs or whatever. So
yeah, I think that was a big part of my abuse. That was my relief. That's how I could deal with it and get through life. I needed some moments of temporary relief, and did that for so long until the relief didn't come. But as far as like getting out, the difference between ADHD and all that, I could lay in bed all day.
I can't even imagine. I've never done it once.
It was horrible. But also knowing this is not helping.
Yeah, it like snowballs or whatever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like the longer I stayed in bed, the longer I stayed in bed.
Yeah.
Because
which is actually kind of interesting, because I used to think about that. Like, I'm going to get trapped if I don't get up now.
Oh.
And that was always enough to get my ass up, because I didn't want to get stuck.
Yeah, I wanted to get stuck. I didn't want to face the world.
Right.
Do responsibilities. I was just incapable at times of getting out of bed.
Yeah.
It's just, is it pain? Is it mood? Just impossible. Right. Couldn't do it.
Right. Yeah. So let's get into it. Let's get into the book. So I honestly, like, I was intrigued by the title.
I'm glad you read it, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, of course, yeah. Anything. I mean, I thought it would actually be useful. I mean, I've read plenty of like books about depression, about ADHD, about all kinds of things before. I don't know if this one helped me because it was had a lot of literary references and whatnot.
Yeah.
Kind of a snot, so like it just really that appealed to me. And the first literary reference that really got to me was The Darkness Visible, because that's Milton. And so Paradise Lost describes Satan as darkness visible. Always a beautiful description. Also was important to me, a French phenomenologist, Mary-Lou Ponty, talks about the visibility of the invisible. And as you know, in the presentation that I did at an academic conference somewhat recently, one of my favorite theologians who was at the University of Chicago when I was there, was named Jean-Luc Marion. And a lot of how he understands a category of phenomena called saturated phenomena is as it's like the too much to be made fully visible, but it's the visibility that is kind of like a warped sort of visibility, so that it's like he uses Merleau-Ponty's idea, and this idea of something that appears. Sorry, this is a better way to put it, I think.
Yeah.
That something that appears, that you know is there, that's manifest, but you can't get your concepts around it.
Right.
You can't articulate it. The way he puts it is the overproximal affects, so that like there's so much affect with an A, so like so much feeling or so much emotive.
Yeah.
That you're feeling it at an intuitive level, but you can never make it intentional. You can never make it at least fully articulated or whatever.
Absolutely, and that was why this book had such a big effect on me, because he articulated it exactly what I was feeling, and he just really dove deep into it, and it was cool because it follows his journey through depression. So these different stages and how it gets started off and then gets worse and then starts to come out of it and finally conquers it. But his description all along the way, I could totally identify with. And it's the first time that I read something. Now, I can identify with talking with another person who has this level of depression, and they can just say a couple sentences. I'm like, exactly, that's exactly how I feel. But as far as a reading, this book was just very, very helpful to me, because it was, if people don't understand the level of suffering that people with deep depression suffer from, they can't identify, they can't help, they can't suggest, like you.
Yeah.
Like that. But now you can, because so you have a totally different approach for depression.
Yeah.
That's different from ADHD solutions or
Well, I would have to say, in all honesty, what I know how to do now is to admit what I don't know. So I mean that's part of what we're trying to do right now.
That's part of it. Yeah.
Is to like talk about what is an approach of somebody in recovery who has reached the end of their self-medicating, but they find themselves in. So that's no longer any kind of a solution. So they find themselves in this. So
for me, my depression got worse in recovery. Because I didn't have that temporary relief anymore, and I didn't want it. I knew it didn't work. I'll tell you, the one I've let a lot of stuff go to crap in recovery. When my depression was at its worst. Financially, my relationship with my kids, it's all getting better now, but my work. But the one thing I did hold on to was staying sober. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I didn't have a choice if I wanted to get through this.
Yeah.
I knew if there was any opportunity, and at times I didn't think there was, to conquer my depression, I had to stay sober. Got divorced. I mean, just the pain was immense. So hitting, like I hear, I hit my bottom, then I went to AA, or I went to recovery. No, I hit my bottom in recovery.
Yeah.
And so it's
actually a more common experience that people will admit, and so that
is it?
A lot of times, for me, it's not the same kind of a bottom. Mm-hmm. But I was a year in where all the things that you're supposed to get back in AA, I was losing all those things, And so I had to really figure out like what is the point of sobriety. It's not like this, magic. I mean, talk about like the toxicity of positive thinking sometimes. Like the prosperity gospel of AA is good maybe to get people in the door sometimes, but for me as well, like, and that it's really helpful to be able to tell people like that there's reason to hang on even when the things that you're getting sober for in the first place are not only not coming true, but like the reverse is happening.
For sure, Mark.
Is huge. So,
and I don't think that message comes through enough in recovery. That sometimes it's more like, hey, once I gave up drinking or smoking pot, my life got better.
Yeah.
And that's why I like a couple guys that the first couple years of sobriety is really, really tough.
It is.
You just got to get
It's tough because it's a new way of life, and you're having to learn how to, treat yourself when you don't have your regular treatment. But it's also rough because, like, whatever symptoms you had before, like, they're untreated now, and they're coming at you real hardcore.
That's right.
And it's also rough because a lot of what, even though it's not directly said, I'll give a kind of funny example to me, like in the 9-step promises where it says, fear of financial insecurity will leave you. It's kind of funny, like they say stuff like that, and then your finances get totally fucked or whatever, like even worse than they were when you were drinking, because like people will often like say like, oh, I had all of a sudden I had all this money because I wasn't drinking anymore or whatever. It's kind of like, I have the same idiotic spending habits that I always had. I'm an impulsive ADHD or whatever.
You save so much money by not drinking.
Well, it just was one kind of like, kind of carrot that gets dangled or whatever. But, and a lot of that stuff just doesn't happen for guys. Like they're still like without a job like 3 years in and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so you got to be real careful. Let me not overplay this though. Things get better. They're saying like so like, but but there is this kind of like cognitive dissonance that comes sometimes when things aren't looking the way you thought they would look, and maybe it's not because somebody promised something. And the example of financial insecurity, like they'll always say like, they didn't say your finances will get better. They said your fear of financial.
Well, I think that's what it is though. I think it's more emotional. It's like, hey, I'm still broke. But I don't stress out about it anymore.
Yeah, well, if that's, that doesn't even come true for me. Like, I stress out about money, and I'm sober a long time.
I think it's...
but, like...
Well, I think it's, like, what I used to feel and what I feel now.
Yeah.
Like, and those 9-step promises, I never said whatever you say at the end, we think not or whatever. I was like, I don't ever see that happening for me. But ever. I just thought it was impossible. How could I even imagine to feel that way, the way I was feeling in early sobriety?
Darkness had been made visible to you, my friend. Or the way, the way that like somebody like Mary Lou Ponty would put it is like, the invisible appears. But as it appears, it's not reduced to like the merely visible. So it's, in other words, it's not something that you can like just describe or, put a concept on and just like tell everybody. I mean, this is like the famous issue with psychological states in general. Is like, there's this part of it you can name. You can name by a diagnosis like ADHD, or you can name by a diagnosis like whatever we're going to call it, clinical depression or whatever.
Yeah.
And personality disorders are this, and all this, like all these different categorizations that you see, all these different namings, identifications. So there is like the articulatable part of it that you identify and that you can name and you can describe or whatever. But what's kind of cool about this guy is he's a literary figure, and so like part of his description is through art, through poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Because, through the poetry of something like Darkness Visible, which on a strictly scientific, logical level doesn't make any sense. But what we're trying to talk about here is something that we do see, that is in our intentional frame or whatever, our subjective awareness, but like that we can't name. And that when we do name it, we can sense the way in which the name doesn't match
Absolutely.
How it feels, or what's called the affectation, with an A, of the whole of the whole experience or whatever.
I just thought of something. Well, I thought a better title would be Darkness Invisible, because people can't see the suffering that a person with this type of depression is experiencing. But I just thought, well, William, for me anyway, made it visible. That I made it visible to you by you reading the book. Now you understand.
Yeah.
As before, it was like, I'm depressed, I feel like crap, and this and that, but it didn't capture. But now it's visible to you, so maybe that's it.
And part of what's visible to me, and this is why I like this sort of like making visible without being reduced to its mere visibility, which sounds like a contradiction, but it's like the main part of what I understand is that I don't understand.
Yeah.
So
that's
that's, and that actually is a kind of understanding.
Yes.
That's very profound.
I guess
at least it is for me.
Yeah.
So that as we talk about this, I don't. And our understanding will increase. The visibility of the invisible will increase.
Right.
But there will be no, in some sense, reduction of like its, inarticulate affects. So that when you're in the like throes of whatever it is, like you have both noticed that giving it a diagnostic name is helpful to a degree. It gives you a name or whatever, but there's all this part of it that escapes it, so that you feel this anxiety around this stuff that can't be objectified, this non-object that's it's causing you all this worry, because it's like, you hear what other people are saying or whatever, you can read about its description in the DSM, but like, there's all this part of
experience
it. That's so experiential.
So many times, like when people are trying to help me, maybe even you and other people, my therapist, and I always thought if my business partner, like, why am I not performing at work, and I wanted him to kind of feel, on all these instances, I wanted these people to feel like 1 minute of what I was feeling. And then they could understand what it was that I couldn't describe. Mm-hmm. That really ultimately it's indescribable.
Yes, right, yeah.
But because I can articulate it. And this book is the first time that I saw it articulated, but it's still, like you're to the point, doesn't capture the feeling of it, the experience of it.
Well, let's start with some of the literary, philosophical, religious examples that he uses. So one of the big ones that he uses, and a lot of people use, is Job to start off with. And you had some sort of interested in his story to some degree, but
and he just opens up with this quote from Job, right below the title of it, and it reads, "For the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me, and that which I was afraid of is come on to me. I was not in safety, neither had I rest, neither was I quiet, yet trouble came."
Yeah.
That's some deep stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, I think for me, I noticed, like, I had suffered from it, the depression, to different levels. I was on meds, off meds, therapy throughout my life. And it was 2018 when I noticed a big shift. And I turned 50 that year, so maybe that had something to do with it. Reflection, and, he mentions like it mysteriously came, but there were some reasons for it. So 2018, I really fell off a cliff with my depression, and it was a whole nother level. And had a family and job.
So was it an increase of degree of what you experienced for some of your life, or was it different in kind, or
I think
indeterminate?
No. I think it was an increase in what I had been feeling, and it came harder, and it didn't go away. like it just stuck with me. And that's the first time, like, and he does a really good job of addressing the physical pain of depression.
Yeah.
And that's when I remember just laying on my living room floor, just not knowing what to do with the pain, this indescribable pain. And that's first thing I can remember was an action I took that was different from before. Like this physical pain, it had come on to me. I'm like, what is this?
Physical.
Yep.
So you felt it more on your body?
Yep. I felt it more in my body. Not a certain part of my body, not a darker mood, not a hurt ankle, but just this pain, this indescribable pain I felt, and I didn't know what to do with it. And he talks a lot about this physical pain. In fact, that's the paragraph I read for the Lectio Divina. And that's the first time I heard that.
Yeah, maybe while you find that, I'll just talk a little bit about Job. You mind if we read that?
Not at all.
All right. Well, I'll just say the reason why Job is used is that so Job is a righteous guy. He's
did I get off track a little bit with the?
No, this I want to go to the I want to go to this thing. I just want to make the transition by just explaining to you the sort of biblical thing. But no, go ahead and find the.
I know where it is.
Oh, you got it. Okay. So anyway, Job is this upright, standing guy. He, pious, praises God, great big family, all the markers of prosperity, in the ancient Near East or whatever, which would be, large stocks of animals, and he's kind of like a sedentary farmer guy at this point, and that's like what you were supposed to be. And then this is confusing to a lot of people, but Satan is a part of his heavenly retinue at this time. He's a member of the court. There's a lot of different figures in the Bible that get put together into one figure later on, but the kind of OG Satan seems to have been almost like a prosecuting attorney, somebody in a courtroom who was like there to I don't know, get out the truth and like get the right. In that sense, he you can see how he was sort of like a part of God's project in the sense of he was almost like the tester. Which is a familiar role for Satan as a tempter or whatever.
What do you mean? Oh, you said tester?
Yeah, like he was a guy who
test you.
Yeah, to take out. Yeah, so famously Jesus is tempted or tested by Satan in the desert, to kind of renounce his sense of mission or whatever in favor of something a lot more crass, but a kind of just simple material program. And so anyways, the bet that goes down is God basically puts Satan onto poor old Job for no other reason than to prove a point. It would appear. He says, have you considered my servant Job? And Satan is the only reason why he's cool and he's righteous is because he's been well taken care of and well rewarded. And so then God says no, I think he's actually a righteous guy, that I think if he didn't have those things he would still praise me or whatever. And so then that's the setup of the test. And so basically Satan is allowed to inflict whatever on Job, and he inflicts a lot. And so maybe one of the differences though with depression, although you could take it metaphorically, is he kills all of his livestock, he kills all of Job's kids, he infects Job's with boils and all kinds of physical maladies, and his wife is encouraging him the whole time to condemn God and die. So it's just sort of to some degree it's maybe a suicidal piece there, this is all bullshit, just tell God he's full of shit and just die, renounce your relation with with God. And so anyway, Job does not do that. But at the same time, Job will not say that he deserves what's happening to him. And he's right, because it's clear that like it's a test that he's being put through to like prove a point that he's an actual righteous guy, which is oftentimes like kind of, again, like biblically there, but like a little bit like strained. In AA we say the Lord's Prayer, so we say, don't put me to the test or lead me not in temptation. And this is sort of like supposed to be one of these things where like we don't ask for these kinds of tests, but they're going to come one way or another. And so like, retroactively we can read into them something that like showed us something about ourselves in the end or whatever. But I mean, even if it shows you that you couldn't pass it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so if Job had renounced his life and God, and
he would know.
And God would know that Job, like, that was not something that was in him or whatever. Yeah.
And does he end up not renouncing?
He doesn't, even though at this time, and this is to today. So in a lot of like ways of even people who aren't explicitly religious think about their lives, is that if something bad is happening in their lives, then they deserve it in some kind of way, and that's what Job will not admit. And so he even has friends show up and say like, admit, repent, like, to God that you did something bad, like, you did something and you're just hiding it or whatever, like admit it, and then things will be cool because you'll have made your reparations or whatever for being fallen. So there's this basic type of theology that is totally pervasive, that is like, if your life is shit, it's because something you did or didn't do or whatever. And so anyways, he refuses to admit and says he wants a trial, which in some sense this is a trial.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, and then finally God shows up and, does not reveal anything to Job, like, and just basically says like, you don't know anything, so you can't even question me. So like, you weren't there when I did all this cool ass shit, like made the world, and like you weren't there when like where deep calls to deep, and all these cool phrases that I use to this day. I like that phrase. But anyways, or like the Leviathan, I made him, he's like insane, whatever. Like I don't know what I did, like in creation. It doesn't say any of that. But anyways, like it's just basically like you don't know, like, and then he leaves. And so that's his encounter with God. And this is why it's often used as a sort of like example of the Dark Knight, is because the revelation of God showing up, his visibility, I mean, it's described as a whirlwind in Job, is without visibility. You understand? Like it doesn't reveal, it's a light.
Right, he tells him nothing.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a light that shines but doesn't like disclose really. There's going to be a lot of connections to
that. That is so cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was the Job story.
Yeah.
That is so freaking cool.
Yeah, so that's why it gets related to the depression here. I don't know. But just read what you were going to. Or don't ask what you're going to ask.
I'll tell you, I never, and that was part of what initiated. Did we talk about this in this book club? It's like, and you saying that we are closest to God or our higher power.
That's not me. Lowest. I'm quoting people.
But you. I've heard it from you. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
You didn't come up with it.
They definitely did not. Well, say it again because you said it kind of low. Say it one more time.
But you introduced this idea to me that I can be closest. I maybe am closest to God or my higher power when I'm in the depths of my depression.
Yeah. And I'm part of this is me realizing how dangerous that is to say.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I never understood it.
Yeah.
Like it never clicked
it's
for
way
me.
more problem. I mean, it was always problematic to me. It's way more problematic to me than it ever was now.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
But then there's this hindsight that I'm looking back now that I'm kind of out of it.
Yeah.
That it kind of, I'm still wrestling with it and want to talk about it some more, but I see, maybe what Marty said there's some validity in it, and at least there's a chance of it. But that's all review mirror stuff. And like looking back, like that was necessary for me to be where I am at today. And where I'm at today is just a world of difference. So it's kind of like, it's easier for me now to look at it as being necessary. But when I was in it, not a freaking chance, man.
No, and as you,
I just didn't understand.
It's like super. It's like me. So I do want to say that I always try to present it as something that is hard for me to swallow as well.
You do.
But that's just something that is said about the mystical experience of the Dark Night, specifically of the Dark Night.
Okay.
And so it's a part of like religious experience.
You presented it that way. I mean, and we spent a lot of time in our club talking about it because it really is a very interesting idea to me.
And we'll definitely get more into it as we go.
Cool.
But I realize now more than ever that if anything comes out of it, it's always retroactively. It's always something that you build afterwards, because when you're in it, it's a very dangerous, risky, awful place, and really in that moment, because I do believe in freedom or whatever, like you really things can go wrong. You can make choices that are irrevocably bad. And so, like, I get the inherent risk with the whole thing.
I made choices that are irrevocably bad.
Right.
I didn't, I'm still here. I didn't make
and then no amount of retrospection at that point can, like, redeem it. And so, like, that's
right.
So that's... It's the problem with the trite person who says everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
It's a version of that.
Yeah.
I have a good friend in the program, and they were having one of those meetings where people were saying that a lot, and then he wound up getting really mad at them, which again, it's not like, it's not obvious to me that anybody had any malintent, by saying it or whatever, or was even like trying to, this phrase that gets used now, spiritual bypass, that they were trying to like get around a real sticky issue or anything like that. People, when they say that, they are really trying to make meaning out of suffering. The problem, anytime you try to make meaning out of suffering, is you can almost glorify it, or you can promote it, or whatever, and you're just always walking this line between redeeming it and making it meaningful to where you are now, and like making it something that is like, I don't know, praised to the point where it's like
admirable.
Yeah, admirable. Yeah, like you kind of make it. Trying to make something that really should be named as bad, evil, whatever. You're trying to run roughshod over that. And so, anyways, the example that my friend gave me was just like, what if somebody came into this meeting and had been sexually assaulted or whatever, which often is the case.
Yes.
And so like what would you say to them? Like everything happens for a reason, right? So like this is the
your
problem
child died.
with like me saying something like the mystics say, which is I'm sure like some version of that like in the dark night is when we are closest to God. Or another version of that is when we feel the furthest way, we are actually the closest. So there are ways of interpreting and understanding that I think are useful maybe, but there are also ways that are really bad. So like this is like
when you're in
such dangerous territory right now,
When I was in it and I heard that, it was like, nope, that's not possible, and I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But I was curious because you were saying it. And like, what is that possible? What does that mean? How does that, am I right now trying to find, develop my spiritual connection? Is it happening right now? Am I closest to my higher power right now? So naturally I was interested in it, and curious and wanted to talk about it, but it didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. And maybe it shouldn't. Let's read this. This is the description that really kind of got me.
Good.
out of that whole.
So I read this whole
thing
book.
Or whatever, yeah.
I knew when I was going to give my Lectio Divina, I was going to do something from this book.
Yeah.
Because we had talked about this, closest to God, and it was like a couple of these guys had come up with a couple sentences, and I just picked this paragraph because it describes. Okay. What I have begun to discover is that mysteriously and in ways that are totally remote from normal experience, the gray drizzle of horror induced by depression takes on the quality of physical pain. But it is not an immediately identifiable pain like that of a broken limb. It may be more accurate to say that despair, owing to some evil trick played upon the sick brain by the inhabiting psyche, comes to resemble the diabolical discomfort of being imprisoned in a fiercely overheated room. And because no breeze stirs this cauldron, because there is no escape from this smothering confinement, it is entirely natural that the victim begins to think ceaselessly of oblivion. That describes my pain.
Yeah.
And it is a horror.
Yeah.
It is a horror.
Yeah.
It's just and to like just experience it for so long with no remedy in sight. There's just no escape. There is one solution to this type of pain, and that is suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And why I didn't commit suicide is because of my 2 kids.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. But if I didn't have my kids, I don't know. That is suicide. It's to escape the pain.
Mm.
It's the only solution for some people. They've reached that point.
Yeah.
And there's no remedy for it ever. So that's why I chose that paragraph.
Yeah. And when I heard that, I felt, first of all, a great deal of compassion for you and for many other people that have suffered that. And I also realized I'd never felt that.
Yeah.
So I just, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, maybe we talk a lot about, differences of degree versus differences of kind.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I still don't know. If I just never felt it deeply enough, or if it really is something different from what I've ever felt before. Because I can say that, like, and it's interesting that you brought up something that I recognize, which is like finding some reason, and for me it often is my kids, that, however life looks, there's this one unquestionably good thing. And so like that's something I really relate to there.
Yeah.
Like it's like as far down as I've ever gone with like everything's like bullshit and life is pointless, which is going to transition us nicely into Camus, the next example. But whatever certainty I had around that was always broken by the uncertainty of the presence of like just undeniable goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't so yeah, there's so much I can relate to in it, and there's so much that I can't relate to in it, I guess. And like for the longest time for me, like the understanding came down to like our differences around the bed, which we already talked about. Like you couldn't get up and I couldn't stay in it.
Yeah, yeah.
So like there's that just really struck me as really different. And then there are other things that I sort of got this second. You and him both describe it as a bodily, physical experience, but as also unlocatable in your physical body. So again, this is why the concept of darkness visible, or the invisible appearing, or the invisible manifesting as invisible, as something that is not articulate, as something that is not intention, that is such a profound part of, I think, life in general, but I mean in this experience as well. Every one of our diagnoses has a way in which it names a pattern that's relatable to other people, but there's all this extra, what I'm calling, affectation, all these extra affects, excessive of whatever you can name about it.
Absolutely. At the unexplainable, I would. So I'm a contractor, and I'd be at the job with the guys, and I would look for any reason to leave. Hey, we need an outlet cover. I'm like, I'll go get it. I would drive around 270 to go get it. I'd be gone for 2 hours to get an outlet cover. I didn't know what to do. I knew if I just drove, I was doing something, and I would just drive. That gave me some kind of relief. Just occupying my mind, I guess, with driving. And then I'd get to Home Depot, and I would just sit in the parking lot for like 45 minutes and just experiencing this pain. And I'd walk through the aisles with this pain. And I'd go back to the shop, and we have a big shop, and I would just pace around for like 45. I just walk circles around our table saw because I didn't know what to do. I felt I had to do something. Like I couldn't just sit or lay. I couldn't go back to bed and just lay there. But like all those feelings, the same feeling I had when I was laying in bed. It was the same feelings going to Home Depot. It was the same feelings I had talking to my family, going to meetings. It just always followed me. It was always with me. And that's when it was just like really, really bad. And it was like lasted a long time. But that's how I dealt with this indescribable pain. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I was in pain.
Right.
In a physical, it wasn't like a heavy chest or heavy shoulders or a head, or it was just this, oof. I don't even know if that even encapsulated. It's just, I was in pain.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's almost like, and I also have trouble, but I'll just say the way you're describing it to me reminds me like of this body that's in my body, like
Yeah.
that is yeah, it's it used to be called our soul, but but I think so, soul sickness or whatever. That's when that there's this real sense of like this greater depth in you that is just undergoing like this radical suffering.
Yeah. And like this separation of viewing it all. Like,
Yeah, you talked about, let's talk about that real